The John Sterling Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Good afternoon, everyone. We have another show. I know it'll be a good one. Not because of me, but I have great guests lined up that you're going to love. And so we shall begin. This week, I read something, the usual stuff, about pitching, and they can't go 5 innings or 6 innings. And then when the relievers come in, they only can pitch one inning. And so I thought of something that happened to me, thankfully, at a Yankee Old Timers Day. It was always a kick to be able to meet the older players, players who I rooted for when I was a kid. One of those was a great pitcher named Bob Turley. Now, I will tell you the story, what I want to tell you, about Turley's magnificent feat, but it had to do with baseball then and not now, and this could never happen again. Trust me. For example, the Yankees played the Milwaukee Braves in 1957 and 58. Milwaukee won in 57. They won in 7 games. In 58, the Yankees were in trouble. And here's what Fred Haney, the manager of the Braves, did. He had 2 great pitchers, 2 great ones. Warren Spahn, the winningest left-hander in history, and Lou Burdett. So in 57, he started Spahn in the first game and Burdett in the second game. In the third game, he started someone different. Bob Rush, maybe, Joey J., Juan Pizarro. And then he pitched Spahn in Game 4, Burdett in Game 5, Spahn in Game 6 or 7, and Burdett in 7. Well, you get the picture. Spahn and Burdett started 6 out of the 7 games, and they weren't about to take them out. So the Yankees were down 3-1 in 58, ready to lose to Milwaukee 2 years in a row. So Bob Turley started Game 5 at the stadium, and aided by a really good play by Elston Howard playing left field, Turley went all the way and pitched a shutout, and the Yankees were back to 3-2. Now they have to fly to Milwaukee for the final 2 games. In the Game 6, they battled to a tie. And the Yankees got a run, I guess, in the 10th inning or so, 11th inning. But Ryan Duran, who was the Yankee closer, threw extremely hard, was nutty. At that point in his life, he was an alcoholic. He did turn that around after he finished with baseball. But anyway, Ron Duran was, I swear, you can't believe this is happening. So Ryan Duran is pitching, and he throws a pitch, and it was called a ball. And you know what Duran did? He came down from the mound, and he gave the choke sign to the umpire. He got thrown out of the game. I mean, if Milwaukee wins, the World Series is over. So Stengel, of course, went with his best, and he brought in Bob Turley, and Turley got the out and the save. Now we go to Game 7. In Game 7, Don Larson started for the Yanks and didn't have it. The Yankees scored a couple. Milwaukee scored a couple. And in the third inning, with 1 man out, there were 2 men on base for Milwaukee. And Stengel didn't like what he was seeing, so he went out to the mound. Now, who do you think he brought in? You're right, Bob Turley. And Turley then pitched a shutout for the next 6 2/3 innings. In the 8th inning, the Yankees got a man to second with 2 men out. And Elston Howard was the hitter, and he had a shot right up the middle for a base hit. The run scored, the Yankees had the lead. And with 2 men on, Moose Skowron came up, and he ended the problems by hitting a 3-run home run, and the Yankees had a 6-2 lead. And Turley went out and pitched shutout ball in the 8th and 9th innings, and the Yankees had won the World Series. So I was talking to Bob Turley about this and how magnificent It was, and I said, this couldn't happen nowadays, but look how much you pitched in the last 3 games. And you know what Turley said to me? He said, John, then we went barnstorming, and I pitched 10 days in a row. So could that happen anymore? Not a chance. Also, the players make so much money, they don't have to go barnstorming to make extra money after the season is over. But one thing I will say, I don't want to be thought of as someone living in the past, because the future is here. The future is now, as they say. And it couldn't happen anymore. And, that's the way the game is played. And sometimes, I don't like this or that, or all the 3-point shots in basketball, but that's the way the game is played. And, that's the way you basically have to watch it and listen to it. If you're wondering, the Yankees got shut out today. I think it was 7-0 by Oakland. What's worse, the starter was ex-Yankee J.P. Sears, a left-hander. And so the Yankees in a little rocky thing, but the best thing I can say about the Yankees and Mets, and we'll talk about it later on, they're both still in first place. And if they're not in first, they're within a half a game or so. And when we're at half-year point, and these teams now have 80 games to play, and so there's a long time for anything to happen. I have no idea what's going to happen. I can't see into the future. I don't have that. But I think if you said to me, well, do you think the Yankees and Mets are good enough to win? I think they'll both make the playoffs. You look at the leagues, and they're among the top teams, and a bunch of teams make the playoffs. So I think they'll make the playoffs. What happens there, obviously, neither I nor anyone else know. One more thing, I was telling this to someone today. They're at the half-year point, but the trade deadline is a month or more away, and believe me, there are going to be deals. Both the Yankees and Mets have some holes, and they have to repair those holes before they go on. So we are on the John Sterling Show on Saturday from 4 to 5 in the afternoon. Right, that's a good idea. That's Jonas Jackson, Eric Williams, they're behind the glass, and the official executive producer is Rich Rattobali. He's around here, too. Well, I do want to talk to you about one thing. Please come root for the NYPD at the FDNY, the police department and the fire department, and they will play a showdown softball game on Sunday, July 20th, and net proceeds will benefit the Shriners Children's. If you're over 18, you can hit it out of the park and win $1,000 in the home run derby and the fastest pitch contest. Well, I wouldn't mind that. I don't think I'll be able to do it. Doors open at 9:30, and I will call the game. The special guests include Dwight Gooden, Sid Rosenberg, Anthony Cumia, and many more. Now, to buy tickets, go to ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. That's ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org, and we'll get back with more. We'll get back with our first guest when we return in just a moment. We want to pay some bills, as they say, here at 77 WABC.
The John Sterling Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The John Sterling Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I was a little boy, about 7, and I discovered sports, and it's been a lifelong love affair. I'm very lucky to have it. That's one of my companions, along with music, that I carry with me. On July 4th, a few days from now, I'm going to be 87. So that tells you how long I have loved sports. When I grew up, there were 6 newspapers in New York. Boy, do I wish that would happen again. One of the remaining newspapers has a fabulous sports section. That's the Post. And here is one of my favorite writers, columnists in the Post, and our first guest today, Mike Vaccaro. Vac, how you doing?
John, I'm doing terrific. How are you doing, my friend?
Well, good. You know, it's I couldn't have it easier. I spend an hour each week talking sports with all my friends. It's wonderful. And I think one day a week is that's about what I can do. So, Vac is a great basketball fan. Like me, he played basketball when he was a kid and I guess into his 20s and 30s. Now, I played till I was in my mid-30s, and I tore up my knee in a charity game at Fordham, and I had to go to tennis and swimming. So, Vac, how long has it been since you've been playing basketball?
Yeah, it's been a while, John, and I miss it. I miss it every day. I dream about playing basketball probably twice a week.
You know, go ahead.
And then I wake up. No, I was going to say, and then I wake up, and it's like, you know what? It's probably best that I just reserve it to hitting golf balls instead.
Well, there's no question about it. People don't realize who haven't played basketball what kind of shape you have to be in to go up and down that court. So I'm glad I began this way with you. So tell me, what did you think of Indiana and Oklahoma City and the finals they put on?
I thought it was a terrific finals. I really do. I wish, unfortunately, those of us who love sports, there's nothing better than a Game 7. And there's really nothing better than a Game 7 of the Ultimate Series, right? The World Series, the NHL Finals, the NBA Finals. And we get it so infrequently. I was so looking forward to it. And then, Tyrese Halliburton goes down about 5 minutes into the game. And it's just a buzzkill. And, much to Indiana's credit, they were still leading at the half. But, you just had that feeling once Halliburton went down, it was going to be a real tall order for them to be able to stay in the game. But look, Indiana gave that series a run. I don't think anybody thought that series was going to go more than 5 games. And, they won Game 1 right away, the same way they won so many games in the postseason, kind of miraculously in the fourth quarter. Knicks fans know all about that. And they stayed in the series for the entirety of it. And it was fun. Like I said, you start to appreciate that you don't really get to see Game 7 all that often. And you really don't get to see it in the ultimate game of the season that often. And when it happens, you appreciate it.
Well, I agree with you. I was bothered at the beginning. They're two very small cities, Indianapolis and Oklahoma City. And so the ratings figured to be down. But they weren't down for me. I thought the games were great. I love to watch Shea play. He does everything so easily. And as far as Indiana, they play team basketball, and they put a lot of guys on the floor, and they attack you and play as tough as they can. So I really loved Indiana and Oklahoma City. And I have to admit this. I love the Knicks and what they did, and like everyone else, I am head over heels in love with Jalen Brunson. I cannot believe how great he is and how clutch he is. Now, it's one thing, Mike, as you know, to be able to dribble like that, fake and dribble, and he has the ball all the time. He must be so strong. And but the thing he does when he does all of his fakes and moves and gets the shot off, he does one other thing. You know what it is? He hits the shot. So
yeah, he sure does.
He really is a fabulous player.
Yeah, he really is. And look, the Knicks really wanted him. They targeted him. They hired his father as a coach before they actually signed him as a player. So you know how much they wanted him here. I'm not sure that even Leon Rose knew, or even Tom Thibodeau knew what kind of player they were getting. They knew they were getting a very good player. I think if you told him that he was going to be a regular on the All-NBA team within a couple of years, that might have surprised them.
Well, I agree with you.
But you know what? If you've seen his career at all, John, he's always been that way. He's been a guy who's kind of thrived on proving people wrong. He proved people wrong at Villanova and was a great player at Villanova, championship player at Villanova. And look, his arrival really signaled a different level with the Knicks. When Thibodeau and Rose took over, I think there was an idea that the circus had left town. But once Jalen arrived, it was obvious that this guy had real aspirations and was willing to do what was necessary to get there. And look, it's been a fun tour already with them. They've won 4 playoff series under him, under Jalen as a player, and he's been instrumental in all of them.
Well, no one likes him more than I do. I am just blown away, and I do agree with you. I don't think Rose knew. I don't think Thibodeau knew. I don't know if Bronson. I'll tell you this: Dallas didn't know either because they never would have traded him. He is great. Which leads me to a question that's never been answered. As you know, the Knicks do not talk to the public, which I think is some nerve when you draw $18,000 a game, paying those phenomenal prices. They deserve to know. So let me ask you, why was Thibodeau fired?
Yeah, you know what? I think the best way to describe it is that, look, I mean, he was there 5 years, and I get it. There's a shelf life for all managers and coaches, or most, I should say. And Thibodeau is the kind of guy, look, he's not easy to play for. He's not easy to work with, I'm sure. I know. And so I think maybe they thought that it was time for a fresh voice. And it's not unprecedented. I think, a guy who's getting a lot of bouquets these playoffs, John, is Rick Carlisle at Indiana. And, he's got one title and he almost came close to a second. But before that, he was on the doorstep of a championship team with the Pistons in 2003, got him to the conference finals and got fired. And then they brought in Larry Brown, and Larry Brown won the championship his first year in Detroit, and so there is precedent for it. Now the difference is there's no Larry Brown out there right now, as far as I can see, who would be a significant step forward. Maybe you can find lateral choices. Maybe you could convince me that Jason Kidd is a lateral choice. I'm not sure that that's even feasible, that he could be pried away from Dallas. But I'm not sure what else you got. And look, I've kind of tried to kind of hold the torch in my garage until I see who they hire, because I think it's only fair. Who knows who they hire? Who knows what they have in their bag of tricks? But it really had better be a significant, like I said, if not an upgrade, at least a lateral move to a equally adequate coach, because the Knicks have a very brief and very exciting window right now. I mean, next year the East is a mess. We saw Halliburton go down. We've seen Tatum go down. We've seen Dame Lillard go down. It was already wide open, and the Knicks were already good enough, as we saw, to be one of the 2 finalists in the East this year. It only goes to reason they should be right in the conversation next year. And you really can't afford to hire a coach, I don't think, who's going to be learning on the job for the first 40 games of the season. Now, I could be proven wrong. I'm willing to be proven wrong. I hope that I am wrong for the sake of Knicks fans who were long-suffering as just about anybody else in this town. But it puzzled me when it happened, and it still puzzles me now, John.
Oh, I think it's very puzzling. And we did see other top-flight coaches get fired. Obviously, Detroit, Memphis, teams that were winning and had really good records. They had chances to win 50 games. Well, winning 50 in the NBA is pretty good. That was always a mark that people wanted to get to. And I'm not quite sure. And about Thibodeau, Mike, you probably can answer this better. See, I think he has within him this unbelievable desire to win. Now, every coach wants to win every game. But with Thibodeau, I think it's stronger. And he could see that his second team wasn't nearly as good as his first team, and that's why he played his first team a lot of minutes.
Yeah, you know what, John? It's become almost a cliche. The coach who sleeps in his office and is so single-minded and, is buried in game film. But honestly, that's what Tom Thibodeau was, and that's what Tom Thibodeau is. Look, if he wanted to, he could collect his next 3-year salary, a pretty nice wage, and just do it all from the beach. I guarantee you he's already looking at like game film of the finals, because that's what he does. Basketball is what he does. It's who he is. I'm not sure he's ever going to be a head coach again. I hope he gets another opportunity, because, he's that good. And any struggling team would do well to have him kind of add his signature to their product. But that's who he is. You're right. All he cares about was winning. I know that people got on him because of his rotation and because of all the minutes and how much he cared about winning games in the regular season next year. But you know what? good luck to the next guy next year if, in the middle of February he goes on a 4-game losing streak and 3 of those games are winnable and they didn't win them because they didn't play the starters enough, People are going to remember that too. You really can't win in the business anyway, John. You've been around long enough to know that. But I think it's hilarious at a time when one of the greatest scourges in all of basketball is load management and guys taking nights off and guys getting half days off. You don't get that when you play for Thibodeau. And generally speaking, he assembles players who don't want that anyway. And that's what he had with the Knicks. And so it's going to be interesting to see what the next guy does when he comes in, because it sure sounds like that's part of one of the things the Knicks want to find in a new coach, is a guy who's going to expand the rotation, be more collaborative. And, when you start hearing all the things the Knicks want in a new coach, it's clear they weren't going to get that in the old coach. And, not to Thibodeau's fault, because it's been a very successful formula for him. But, that's probably, gives you the real answer why they're looking for a new guy in charge now.
Yes, but I think they owe it to their public. And I'm no goody two-shoes person, but I think they owe it to their public to say, why did they fire this man who took them to the Eastern Finals? They hadn't been to the Eastern Finals in 25 years.
Sure.
And nothing is forthcoming from them.
No, and look, and somebody obviously who makes his living, partly on being able to get the comments of people and the understanding of what a guy. Look, here's the thing. When you're in like my role as a columnist, or John, or your role as a radio commentator, you don't want to just fire from the hip, right? You want to have a little understanding of what's going on. And look, those, we all have people we talk to and so forth, but it wouldn't be a terrible thing once in a while for the Knicks to be able to give you an idea of what they're really thinking, in an official capacity. And look, I've been a big supporter of Leon since he got here. He's about as much of a reason for why they are where they are as anybody. He's made some really smart choices in building his roster. But, yeah, I do wish he would talk more. But, look, I also happen to know who he works for, and that probably explains why he hasn't talked at all.
Oh, you're very right. I always feel, Mike, I wonder if you feel the same thing. I don't know anything, which is normal for me. Thibodeau never knocked a player. Never. Now you could say Boone. Yeah, you could say Booney and Mendy. They never knock a player either. But I think with the Knicks, it began with Larry Brown, and they were going to hold up his money. And I wouldn't be surprised if Dolan has a clause in the contract that you're not allowed to knock the organization, and you can't knock a player. Is that possible?
Oh, I think it's 100% possible. I think it's actually the way it is, John. And look, it's funny. I know that you talk to the same kind of fans that I talk to all the time. And, you spoke about Boone, right? And whenever the Yankees go on a 5-game losing streak, all fans want is a guy who's going to kick dirt on the umpires and topple the buffet table and start to scream that one's a born liar and the other's convicted. And guess what? Those are great times and those are great stories. That's never going to happen again, because there's never going to be an organization that's going to allow a manager to behave that way, and nor should they. Look, it's a different time, and it probably wasn't even right then. It's funny in retrospect, and the stories are amusing in retrospect. But I guarantee you that when Reggie Jackson found himself on the back pages of the tabloids every day, that wasn't a good time for him. And I don't think it was a good time for George in those days either. Actually, he probably was. He probably enjoyed it. But you're not going to get another George Steinbrenner again either, in the same way you're not going to get another manager or coach like Billy Martin.
No, I think you'd agree with this. It's kind of sad for us in the media, but they're really pushing the media away. That's all sports. Dan Shaughnessy wrote a book about his time with the Celtics in the 80s.
Oh, yep.
Oh, what a great book. And I lived it. I was broadcasting for the Hawks, never missed a game throughout the 80s. And Shaughnessy asked someone in Boston, now Larry Bird sold the building out, and they continue to sell the building out. It's all Larry Bird. And Shaughnessy asked something of a PR guy, and he said, we don't need you anymore.
Yep. And it's true, and it's sad. Look, here's the thing, too, John. Look, I don't go back so far that I was part of those great, Bronx Zoo back page wars of the 70s and early 80s, but But you know what? I do go back far enough back to where, and I've always said this, and I've told him this, and it's true. I mean, most of the baseball that I know, probably 75% of it came from about 30 sessions early in my career when I was able to sit in the office of Buck Showalter.
Oh, right.
During his last years with the Yankees. And, it wasn't just the great answers. It was good questions by smart baseball writers, and you learned just to keep your mouth shut and listen and understand, why things are the way they are. And, even that part of it is different, because all pre-games are basically TV programs, and I get it. You got to pay the bills and so forth. I'm not a Pollyanna, but I'll tell you what, I feel bad for baseball writers on the way up who aren't able to learn to the knee of somebody like Buck Showalter. Or Bobby Valentine was the same way in his office, and whatever baseball I didn't learn from Buck, I probably learned from Bobby V. I mean, it's just not there anymore, and I think the coverage suffers naturally because you just don't develop the kind of relationships with the managers that you do when they realize that they can, trust you with asking good, smart questions.
Yeah, I was very lucky that Joe Torre trusted me, which he tells me all the time. It's too bad. It really is that because the media is there only to supply the fans with their knowledge, the knowledge they pick up. And I've heard a lot of baseball guys say this. It's not the same. They can't go to the office and sit there and talk to him and such. Mike, you've been a marvelous guest. I can't wait to have you on again. Do a quick thing on the Yankees and Mets. Any idea how they'll wind up?
Well, you know what, John? I listened to a wise man for many years on my radio who would tell me all the time that baseball is a very long season. And I think both the Mets and the Yankees are reminding us that this is a long season. And look, I mean, the Mets have been, 4 or 5 games up in first place on 2 different occasions. They've been back and forth in second place a couple of times on all number of cases, and you're not even at the 4th of July yet. And, same thing with the Yankees. Look, they had a nice little start to the season. They've struggled the last couple of weeks, but I don't think that's going to be permanent, and that's part of it. For one thing, we don't know what the team's going to look like in, after August 1st.
Right.
But it's that's part of it. That's what it is. And so I think this year was a really great timestamp on what that kind of what it is. That's what the baseball season is. It's a long season, and we're reminded that every year.
Yeah, be something if they're both hanging around first place. It could be a great August and September here in New York. They're looking for that. Well, we all are looking for that, obviously.
That's always the best summer, John, when both teams are in the mix.
Absolute. Mike, thank you very much. You're great. I can't wait to read you tomorrow in the Post. And we have to do this again, okay?
That sounds good. And tell my guy Klapisch I said hello.
Okay. Thank you. That was Mike Vaccaro of the Post. And the Yankees got shut out 7-0. And it's raining in Pittsburgh. They're putting the tarp on the field where the Mets have a 1-0 lead, but it's really early. And you want me to read this again or do it later? Yeah? Okay. I'll read it, and then we'll go to the break, okay? I'd like you to come root for the New York Police Department and the New York Fire Department. They're going to play a softball game on Sunday, July 20th, and net proceeds will benefit Shriners Children's. If you're over 18, hit it out of the park and win $1,000 in the Home Run Derby and the Fastest Pitch Contest. Doors open at 9:30 a.m. I will call the game. Special guests include Dwight Gooden, Sid Rosenberg, Anthony Cumia, and many more. So to buy tickets, go to ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. And we will get back with my next guest. You're going to love him. And we'll do all that when we pay some bills. You're here on 77 WABC.
The John Sterling Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The John Sterling Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I was just talking to Jonas Jackson behind the glass, and I said, it's amazing how fast this hour goes. I think that's about my speed, too, 1 hour. Here's a friend of mine, good friend of mine, who is a great writer. Has written great books. He's written for the News and the Post. He's writing on the Internet now. And since I don't go on the Internet, I have no way to go on the Internet. He's going to tell us exactly who he works for. He is Bob Klapisch. Clap, how you doing?
I'm doing great, John, and I want to thank you so much for having me on. It's an honor.
My pleasure. You're going to be great. Who do you write for?
Well, John, since I was at the Bergen Record, for those who need to catch up on me, that I was at the Bergen Record after the Daily News. I was at the Bergen Record for almost 20 years until 2017, and now I'm at what was the Newark Star Ledger, and as you mentioned, we are no longer printing a physical newspaper anymore. That's the state of the industry. We are online only at nj.com, but it is the Star Ledger. It's the biggest outlet in New Jersey, and I'm still doing my thing. I mean, I used to cover the Mets and the Yankees, but for the Ledger, there's so many Yankee fans in Jersey, especially northern Jersey. All my time is spent in the Bronx, so that's my area of expertise these days.
You know, Bob, I generally do the Phil Cuzzy dinner. It's for ALS in the wintertime, and everyone there is a Yankee fan. Let me put it that way. Everyone. North Jersey is a hotbed for Yankee fans. I thought of this. I'm going to plug a Bob Klapisch book, and if you're listening and you love baseball, you have to get this book. It's the book you did with John Harper many years ago. The Worst Team Money Can Buy. Great book. Did it do anything? Did you make a little money out of it?
Oh, it sure did. Look, I've done 6 books, and that was the first one that ever ended up on the New York Times bestseller list, and it was so much fun. What made that book so unique is that it was written in 1992 about the Mets, which was supposed to be a championship season. That was the year they signed Bobby Bonilla and Eddie Murray and Vince Coleman, and they picked up all these out-of-towners to sort of extend the dynasty, the mini dynasty the Mets had in the late 80s. It didn't happen, but they certainly had some really great teams. Those players aged out, Hernandez, Carter, and so they brought in all these out-of-towners, and they tried to mix it, just sort of try to recreate that with mercenaries, and it didn't work. So it was supposed to be a book about a championship season, turned into be a diary of how to run a franchise into the ground. But more than just a day-by-day of the 92 season, it was really looking at the life of a sports writer. And back then, it was, pre-internet, pre-cell phones, pre-everything. The only way you could find out about a team or what was really going on in the clubhouse was through the newspapers. And so many friends would ask, well, what's Dwight Gooden like? What's Darryl Strawberry like? What's he really like? And John Harper and I was at the Daily News, and John was at the Post, and we ended up telling so many anecdotes about our life and what it was like behind the scenes, to our friends in the bars. And finally, Harp said to me one day, we're giving away all these great, colorful stories for free. Why don't we write a book about the life of a sports writer, what it's really like to be a sports writer in the modern day? And we found a publisher that loved it. It's Simon & Schuster, and it looked like it was going to be a great year for the Mets. And so we signed a contract. We were really excited about it. And the Mets got off to a terrible start. And 2 months in, it was clear they were not going to be a championship team. All the assumptions they made turned out to be wrong. And we went back to the publisher thinking that, we're going to have to give our money back. There was going to be no book. And the editor, his name was David Rosenthal, says, no. We're going to do a different book. And I've got the perfect name for it. The Worst Team Money Could Buy. And it turned out to be quite the bestseller because it was really a really, really close-up look, illustrated look of the life of sports media and the collapse of the New York Mets, how they went from being the best franchise in 1988 to the worst in 1992. And the book came out in April of 93. And what really sold the book, John, was the incident I had with Bobby Bonilla in the clubhouse in April of 93. And all you have to do is Google my name and Bobby Bonilla's, and you know that he and I went at it face to face, nose tip to nose tip, on the book, based on the book. And that turned it into a bestseller. So indirectly, Bobby launched my career as an author. So to him, I say thank you.
Yeah, that's the one where I remember this from that day, because I remember things like that because I love sports. But Bobby Bonilla said to you, "I'll show you the Bronx."
I'll show you the Bronx. And if you don't mind, I'll tell you the whole genesis of it.
Please.
Right before spring training, at the end of spring training in 1993, I went up to Jeff Torborg, who was the manager of the Mets at that time, and I said, Jeff, a book is coming out next week about the 92 season, and I just want to let you know, I want to give you the courtesy of a heads up. It is tough, but fair but tough. And he said, thank you, Bob. I appreciate the warning. I know how it is in this town. I can handle it. I can take it. We're fine. So I said, thank you, Jeff. Just don't take it personally. So a week later, the book comes out. Of course, the Mets management hated it. They were all in an uproar because we basically exposed them as frauds they were. Second game of the year was a Saturday afternoon at Shea Stadium. And I walk in the clubhouse before the game, and Bonilla's at his locker. And he says to me loudly from across the room, well, look who just walked in here. The so-and-so is here, and guess what? You can blank my blank. And I'm thinking, whoa. Now, in all my years of covering baseball, I've never been spoken to that way. Not every player likes me, of course. It's just, it's one of the surcharges you pay as a sports writer. Eventually, you're going to make some enemies, but never like this. And he said, yeah, you heard me. Why don't you blank my blank? And I think this is pretty serious. Jay Horowitz, who was the media relations director at the time, realized we had a serious problem. Immediately cleared the clubhouse early. I mean, in those days, you could be in the clubhouse until an hour before first pitch. It was like 2 hours before first pitch. He said, clubhouse is closed. Everybody out. He wanted the situation to keep from exploding. So we all file out, go upstairs to the press box, and for the next 9 innings, everyone in the press box, all my friends in the press car said, are you going back down there after the game? Are you really going back down there? And I said, of course I am. I have to. I cannot let Bobby Bonilla chase me out of that room. That would be the worst decision of my life, professional life. So the game ends. The Mets lose to the Astros, and I go downstairs. And just before I walk in the clubhouse, I take a deep breath and say, okay, whatever's going to happen is going to happen now. And I step in the room, and Bonilla was waiting for me. He got from across the room. He sees me. He goes, well, look who's back. The so-and-so is back. I can't believe it. And now I walk in. I'm trying to ignore him. My plan is to ignore him and let this crisis flicker out on its own. Except I'm standing 3 feet away from him because Gooden's locker was right next to Bonilla's that year. We're talking to Gooden, who was a starting pitcher and lost. And Bonilla's right there. Literally, I could literally feel his breath on my neck, and he's just taunting me. Come on, man, make your move. Come on, man. And Gooden, who's really unnerved by this whole thing, I mean, he's really trying to conduct an interview, try to ignore the situation. And it's so uncomfortable. That year, he had shaved his head bald. And he was so unnerved at one point, we were asking about some home run he allowed. He took out a brush and starts brushing his bald head, thinking, oh, man, this is really, really bad. And that's when Bonilla finally crossed the line. He says, come on, man, make your move because I'll hurt you. I said, yeah, are you threatening me? I went right up to him. He says, he called me a name that I just could not allow. I put the name, my notebook in my back pocket, circled around behind the group, and right up to him. I said, are you threatening me? And that's when he says, just like the homeboys say back home, we just chillin'. Now, Bobby didn't realize at that time there was a TV camera. There was a New York One TV camera in the room. This is the days before TVs were allowed in the clubhouse. They have since changed that rule. Obviously, there's now TV cameras everywhere in the clubhouse. But back then, there was no TV cameras. The cameras caught everything. And it was all over the newspapers the next day. Everyone separated us. Everyone got in between us. Nothing happened. Bonilla, at that point, when Jay Horowitz and all the clubhouse kids came in between us to make sure that there were fists thrown, he says, come on, man, I'll show you the Bronx right here. And it was all over the newspapers the next day. In retrospect, John, I realized that Bonilla really wasn't planning to throw a punch. I think he was trying to bait me into me throwing the first punch so he would have an excuse to have a fist fight. But the whole thing was, when he said, don't take it personally, don't take it personally. That was the last thing I said to Jeff Torborg. He had been put up to this thing by the Mets front office, including Torborg. And the idea was to embarrass me, intimidate me, get me to throw a punch and have a fist fight right there. They just didn't think it was going to be on TV. So it was in the newspapers the next day, everywhere. And that launched the career. That the next day, literally that week, the book went on the bestsellers list. So like I said, it helped me sell some books. It raised my profile, not the way I intended. But I did say that was probably the worst summer of my professional life because the Mets didn't talk to me. It was a bad year, bad team, really hateful of the press. Guys were freezing me out. And it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. Ultimately, Bonilla and I made peace, but it took 6 years. He came back to the Mets in '99 after having been with the Orioles and the Dodgers. And at that point, Bobby Valentine was the manager. And this is spring training now in Port St. Lucie. And Valentine says, look, everything's okay. It's going to be fine between you and Bonilla. I've taken care of it. You two can speak to each other now. So that morning, everyone's on the field. All the players are on the field. All the reporters are on the field. It's just me and Bonilla. If he wanted to start with me again, John, there would have been nobody to get in between, just me and him. So I walk up to him. Again, I take a deep breath and say, okay, whatever's going to happen is going to happen now. Now he's at his locker, sitting down, tying his cleats. Without looking up at me, he sensed I was there. Without looking up at me, he says, you know, man, sometimes you wish you'd go back and do things over, but you can't, so you just move on. And without looking at me, he gave me his hand, and we shook. Without saying another word, without ever making contact. That was as close as he could come to saying he was sorry, which I accepted. And we're now friends. Crazy it was, we became friends after that. And that's the saga of of that book and my career as an author.
Well, people who are listening to this is a sentence. Get the book. The worst team money could buy with Klapisch and Harper. I'm telling you, you will swallow the book. You'll love it so much. It really is that. It really is that great a book. And I read as much as anyone you can name. You know, there's some monk up in the top of some castle. He is writing and reading. I honestly, I read as much. You will love this book. Bob, stay right there. We have to take a break, sell a few things, and then we'll get back more with Bob Klapisch in just a moment on 77 WABC.
The John Sterling Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The John Sterling Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I'm going to get right back to him as Bob Klapisch, who has been a top-flight sports writer, columnist in this city for, I guess, almost 40 years. Am I right? Almost 40 years? Did we lose him? We did lose him. Okay. We're going to call him back. Something happened. I don't know what, but we will call him back. And the story about Bonilla was great, wasn't it? And I'm not kidding you about the book. That book is that good. I'm going to bring something up to him when we return. That I remember. He's there? Okay. So Bob is back. I had brought it up that you've been writing in the city for almost 40 years. Am I right?
That is correct. Yep. Yep, I am the senior member of the press corps right now. As crazy as it seems.
I'm the senior member of the broadcast crew. I don't think anyone's 87. You know what got me on the book, and I'd love you to talk about it. At the very, very beginning, you write, and I've read the book, but I have to put it in my own words. But you said being a sports writer takes the joy out of being a baseball fan. Can you remember that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It kills a fan in you. I think that's the second part of that sentence. I mean, you just can't root. I mean, I love baseball. I've been following it. I play it. I've written about it. I've studied it almost my entire life. But there's certain things you have to give up once you become a member of the media. Once you go from the stands or sitting in front of your TV to the press box, and that is the rooting interest. I told people, I tell this to journalism classes all the time, I used to be a huge Yankee fan. There was one point I was actually a Mets fan. I've gone back and forth in my life. But at this point, I don't care if they win or lose. I really don't. I cannot be emotionally invested in the wins and losses. There are certain players I've liked along the way. I could name the 10 best guys I've ever met. And including this bunch today, there's some really nice guys in that Yankee clubhouse who are just, it's nice to see them do well. Aaron Judge is obviously one of them. But whether the Yankees win the World Series or whether they lose the World Series, it does not affect me professionally or emotionally. I had people say last year, boy, you must be upset the Yankees lost. I really don't feel that way. I just can't have those feelings. And that's just the deal you have to make with the profession, that you have to give up caring whether they win or lose. You're there to report the story, hopefully get good games, exciting series, the pennant races to write about, because they're the most fun. And winning clubhouses are usually more cooperative. It's easy to interview players when they're winning and they're happy. But do I personally get upset when they lose? Do I get to enjoy the fun and the agony of being a fan? All of that has been strained out. It's a professional endeavor. It's a professional emotional investment now, as opposed to a personal one.
Well, also, you make the point that a great finish to a game where they tie it up, you have to write a whole new lead. And it is very different when you're doing it on an everyday basis. And was it easier, quote unquote, in the old days when they accepted the media more? Now they don't accept the media at all. For example, I never can recall going into the Braves clubhouse and wondering, am I allowed in at a certain time? Everyone just walked in and did their business, whatever their business is.
It's a completely different industry, John, than the one I started in, the one you knew back in the 80s. I mean, it's just older writers wouldn't recognize what it is today, and young writers today would be shocked to see what the game used to be like, what reporting used to be like. You're right. Access was unlimited back then. It was so casual that you were sort of on the honor system. You just knew what time to leave. I mean, there was one time I think it was in 86 or 87, in the Met clubhouse. It was, again, a 1 o'clock game, and I was supposed to be out by noon, but I was in a long conversation with Ron Darling, who I've known since college. We played against each other at college. In college, I was at Columbia. He was at Yale, and we were just friends. And I looked up. It was 12:40, 20 minutes before game time, and Darling and I were still talking. Davey Johnson walks in. He goes, "Clap, you were supposed to be out of here an hour ago, 45 minutes ago." And he says, "Look, I got to talk." I proceeded to have a quick meeting before the game, and he says, "Look, just stay, forget it, just stay." So I stayed in the meeting. That would never happen today. If I was in that clubhouse 1 minute after the access time ended in the Yankee clubhouse, I would be arrested.
Well,
and I'm not even joking about that. I would be escorted out by those two ex-cops who are the security guys, and I would be held to the holding station. Right.
Right.
So yeah, everything has changed. Everything has changed.
Yeah, it really is to be. And I guess the reason is, as I mentioned before, I guess they feel they don't need the media very much. Well, they don't, John. Like early on, the only access fans had was to the newspapers, was through the newspapers, and that was it. That was it. And now they have all kinds of outlets, and they have their own Instagram accounts. The Yankees have their own Instagram accounts. Their social media has basically replaced newspapers in terms of direct one-on-one contact with the fans. So the fans don't need the players don't need to talk to us as much, and they have now elaborate layout in the clubhouse, private rooms where they can hide out from us, so the media is not allowed. So you go in that clubhouse an hour before the game, 2 hours before the game. There's nobody at their locker. It's really hard to get a one-on-one audience these days with a player before the game, and that never used to be the case. No, not at all. I can tell you that in the Yankee clubhouse where you think the players are, then there's a sign, no media past this point. Well, past this point is where all the players are. And
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's tremendously different. I have a baseball question to ask you. And the reason I'm asking it is because I want to know, why is Chisholm playing third and LeMahieu playing second, whereas Chisholm has a lot more range, and at second, you need a lot more range. Booney has said, well, I wanted LeMahieu at second, where he's very familiar and very comfortable. You think that's the reason?
It looks that way. I mean, look, they've got to make some choices as to what they're going to do at third base. There's no question that Chisholm is at second base. He's a better athlete. He's younger. He's quicker. His fast switch muscles are superior. His fast switch reflexes are superior to LeMahieu's. And I think they wanted to give LeMahieu every last chance to prove that he still had something left to offer. It doesn't look like it's going to happen. He just is not even close to the hitter he used to be in this last gasp effort. It doesn't look like it's working out. They need more offense. They got shut out again today. It looks like it's going to be a race after all in the East, and they just need another bat. So I think I could foresee some move at the trade deadline for a third baseman and to move Chisholm to second base, which defensively is the better move, and I think would help Chisholm as well. And who knows, if they pick up another bat at third base, I think overall the offense would benefit from it.
I agree, and I like LeMahieu very, very much. I told a story on the air how he picked up my bag when I was going up the stairs of a flight, and I don't go up great. Come down okay, but I don't go up great, and he carried my bag all the way to my seat at the end of the plane, so I root for him, but he's not hitting a lot of ground balls. No. So, Bob, thank you for coming on. You were terrific, and because you were terrific, I can't wait to have you on again, and we'll see what happens in the baseball season, but we're going to have a lot of questions to ask. So anyway, I thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, John. Look forward to the next time.
Okay, we shall do it. And Vinny Madunio is coming up next with his music. Great music from Vinny. And I'll see you back on Saturday from 4 to 5. We do our little show here at 77 WABC.
Thanks for listening to The John Sterling Show. You can hear The John Sterling Show Saturdays at 4 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?